live, not live, but you know, it's funny, isn't it? How you press record and the screen goes all funny.
Yeah, just blips in and out. Yeah, man.
Oh, we'll go into technical difficulties, which we always have on this show. So stand
Good
by.
times.
But for the listeners out there that don't know who McDojo is, because that's all I put you down as on the my little video.
Yeah.
This is Rob, and Rob is fucking amazing. Rob takes apart fake martial artists and people that are claiming to do things that just isn't real, and it's amazing. His videos are funny, his content is just fucking brilliant, and you are on the verge of creating your documentary, correct?
Yes, sir. So we're crowdfunding for the documentary right now. And it basically is going to be an extension of what I already do every day, which is call out fakes, frauds, and phonies in the martial arts. But with the documentary, we'll be able to actually go to those places because we could afford to do it. We'll be able to have a high-end camera. We have a camera crew, a film crew, a legitimate studio backing us, and be able to call out fakes, frauds, and phonies in person and discover the psychology behind why people fall for this stuff, talk to former students who fell for it and got out, talk to current cult leaders, which is what I call those people, and really just dive into psychology and find out why it is people fall for this stuff.
It's just bizarre. Like I just said just before we hit record, how people fall for it is just, the only way to describe it is fucking bizarre. Like some of the videos that you've got up on your Instagram, your YouTube, and things like that, you watch them and you're like, how are people watching that thinking, oh, that's real?
Well, there's a lot of psychology behind it. Like before we started rolling, I told you about like, you know, the stigma, because there's a stigma in the martial arts that you can be good at martial arts, terrible at business, good at business, terrible at martial arts, but you can't be good at both things. And I think that comes from a lot of good martial arts instructors who don't understand business very well, who point their fingers at financially successful businesses and go, oh, that's a McDojo because they're financially successful. And the problem with that is it's a very self-deprecating thing to do because eventually the good martial arts studios close and the bad martial arts studios, the ones who actually take the time to learn business sense and learn about marketing, learn about how to get your sales percentages up, learn about retention, learn about all these very important details, they are successful even though they're teaching horse shit, because the good martial arts studios think that making money is bad. And inevitably, like any other business, if your business doesn't make money, it's going to close. And so what we find is we find all these terrible martial arts studios continuing to thrive because good martial arts studios think that making money makes them a McDojo, when it doesn't. It actually is the opposite. Like most McDojos that I found are not the financially successful ones. Most of the McDojos I run into are the ones that aren't financially successful, not because the martial art isn't bad, but because our versions of what a McDojo are different. Mine have nothing to do really with money unless they're lying to their customer. Like if you're financially not doing well, that means your equipment's old. That means that your mats are stinky. That means you're not cleaning your facility well. That means you're not cleaning your bathroom. You don't know how to be kind and courteous to people coming through your door. You haven't trained your team. So what happens is you wind up having to do all of the work on your own as an instructor, and you get miserable because you're stuck at your studio all the time because you're not making money to be able to escape and live your life. And so you find like some of these fantastic instructors burn out and close again because they just did not take the time to learn how to make money.
Yeah. It is a fucking strange one, isn't it? And do you know what? I really love the name Muck Dojo as well. That's brilliant.
Well, it's not mine. I can't take credit. McDojo has been around since before I ever started martial arts. I heard about it way when I was a kid. I started when I was 12 years old, but I heard about it years before, like years and years ago, when I first started training. So, but there was a McDojo.com that got sued by McDonald's. And I think the problem was is they tried so hard to be like use that McDonald's thing to float their name. So of course McDonald's is like, yeah, this is like not good for our brand. So they sued him and won. And so like, but the term McDojo's been around forever. So I was like, I'm not just going to give up that term. I was like, well, let's combine it. So McDojoLife is one word, and I don't associate anything that I do with McDonald's at all. So that helps me not get sued, you know?
Yeah, yeah, because they've got all the lawyers, so
Oh yeah, they'll
gonna
sue your
lose.
ass.
Yeah, you ain't winning against McDonald's.
No, you're not. Or Walmart. You're going to lose both of
No
those
fucking
lawsuits
chance.
all day. And I make a living at doing this, don't get me wrong, but I don't make enough money to win a McDonald's lawsuit. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, brilliant. I wish my brother would stick to timings. He's terrible. Like,
Okay. I wouldn't
it's
sweat
like,
it. You could talk.
yeah, I know. It's every week, right? So we usually start between 8:30. Fluctuates really. I know it's only 15:15, but I said we're starting at 8, and he went, I might be a few minutes late, 5 to 10 minutes. He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. I'll start the chat. We'll get it going. And then he literally just put, I'm on my way back. I'll be on in a minute. That was like 10 minutes ago.
It happens, man.
You'll be able to tell which one of us was in the military and the other one who isn't. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Especially with the timings.
Yeah, I'm not like, I'm so bad about being able to understand time zones that I have to be real specific with people, because sometimes I forget we're all in different time zones. So somebody will be like, yo, man, we're going to do this podcast at like 7. I'll be like, all right, cool. 7 sounds good. And then it's 7 for their time, wherever they are in the world, not 7 on the East Coast. So I never, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. Like, or I put it in my calendar for a different time. So always trying to make sure I'm clear, so that way I never mess that.
Yeah, we definitely made sure of that yesterday on the old on the Insta thingy. Oh, he's here, so I'll add him in. He was like 2000 okay, and you're like, can you please use
AM PM? That's what I need.
right. Add person D Thompson. Add. Here he comes. So we're only 7 minutes here. That's fine.
Yeah, man.
Fun to catch up. Here he comes.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Living the dream, you know?
I can't quite see you yet.
Oh,
here he comes. There he is.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
Mate.
Is the connection all right? Am I gonna have to go and restart my router?
Yeah, you look good.
You look good to us, mate.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
Are we all right?
Yeah. All I'll say, Sean, is you might need to move. You might move to your left a little bit. Can it? Yeah. That's it.
Fucking hell. I could just swap better. Oh, Rob's gone.
Nope, I'm here.
I'm here.
Oh, I've lost a photo somewhere.
That's all good. I can see y'all.
It might be mine. Give me a sec. Let me just do. I might just cut this bit out.
There you go.
It might be mine. Is it mine's? No, it's not mine. For those of you that are listening to the audio version, this is incredible. Right, anyway, where was we? Oh, we were slagging you off for your time, Darren.
All right.
Standard.
Punctuality is okay, man. I understand. Sometimes
you were just getting into what Rob does, basically. Finding fake martial arts, fake dojos, etc., etc. It's all fun. I've been watching it today. Hilarious. Literally off air before we press record, we were talking about the chi handshake.
Right.
It's amazing. So that the guy can knock you out with his mind through a handshake.
Yeah. I've I spent a bit of time today watching some of the videos and stuff. And how did this all come about then?
Well, I mean, I started martial arts when I was 12, so I've been at it for about 22 years. And then over the years, I've trained different things. But jujitsu has been something I've been doing for the last 9 years. And
Right.
I had to substitute to help teach a class one day. One of the instructors got sick. He was like, "Hey, can you teach the class for me?" I said, "Not a problem." I taught the class in the afternoon. Then we had a new guy there. It was like his first, like our second class. He was very new to jujitsu and martial arts in general. And after the class, me and the class were just shooting the shit, talking about, different things in the martial arts. And we got on the subject of McDojos and frauds in the industry. And we said McDojo a lot, but we all understood what that meant, and he didn't know. So he was very quiet during the conversation. Then afterwards, after everybody had left, he was the last one out the door. And he said, I know this sounds silly, but what is a McDojo? And so I gave him what my version is, because if you ask anybody, they all have different versions of what a McDojo is to them. And then after I gave him my version, he goes, "Well, how come nobody does anything about that?" And so I left and I went home, and that just kept kind of echoing in my head. And I started really thinking about it. I was like, well, how come nobody really does do anything about it? And so I started thinking about all the reasons why people don't call those gyms out. And I was like, well, I can do that. And so the next day I started McDojoLife, and I just started getting after it. I started working hard on trying to expose frauds, fakes, and phonies. Back then, it was much more serious. It was only on Facebook because Instagram didn't exist yet. And I'd write these long thesis papers basically on or on Facebook about, like, this is why this dojo's fraudulent. This is why this instructor's lying. Here's all the reasons why. I dissect their websites, dissect their videos, and they'd be like these long, big, bulky clips. And then I realized nobody was watching that. So like no one was reading that. They were like, no one wants to hear somebody bitch and complain all day. So then I noticed by me adding humor into it and by me trying to keep it much shorter and leave a lot more up to interpretation, that more conversations were starting, more people were sharing and interacting. So I stopped injecting myself so much into the opinion and left it a little bit more up to interpretation. And then I found these beautiful conversations started, like people really on both sides of the fence about certain conversations and topics. And that's when the page really started taking off.
It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. I in this day and age, it's like there's lots of things where you get the fraudulent, like the self-help guys, etc. But in terms of martial arts, and you see some of the videos that you post up, and to me, it's mind-boggling that people still believe that you can essentially force push somebody across the room, or that. I mean,
real and some.
I mean, those ones I can't help but laugh and think like you can't be serious, but people are serious, aren't they? They think that
they truly do. Yeah, what's funny is that's a question I get asked a lot. They're like, well, how come people still believe this even now with so much information on the internet and like the UFC? Like how come people don't kind of call this out? And it's funny because I think we get brainwashed in our day-to-day life a lot more than we'd like to admit.
Yeah.
And so it's not actually that hard. Like, for instance, I was talking before we started, I do believe, about like I do consulting work for martial arts studios. I've been doing so for the last 10 years about how to grow their businesses and stuff like that. And it's not that hard to get somebody to sign up for a program. It's all kind of intent. So if I want to sign somebody up for my martial arts program, whatever it may be, whatever the art, it's not that hard to do based off of understanding what it is that they're going to be objecting and understanding that they're coming to you. We don't really cold call. So like in the martial arts, most people who come to us, they come to us because they were seeking us
they
out.
want your help. Yeah.
So it's up to us to mess up the sale. All I really have to do is know the 5 objections. If I know the 5 objections, then I can sell anybody on absolutely anything I'm about to teach them. And it has nothing to do with really what I'm teaching. It's all about understanding what they're going to say opposed to what you're going to say. It's very much a technique in selling people. And most people don't even know what the 5 objections are. So when you say it, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, that's probably why you're not selling anybody on anything you have to offer.
Yeah.
I've always been terrible at selling. I have no idea what the 5 unique techniques are.
Well, it's
Or
simple.
anything.
So,
But
so
we,
there's going to be 5 things that somebody's going to tell you whenever you go to have them sign up for anything physical. It's always going to be the same, and it's never going to change. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I have to talk to my spouse. I have to think about it. It's too far away. So, like, those are always going to be the same 5 things you'll hear over and over and over again. What you'll rarely hear is the word no, because people don't like conflict. So they won't say the word no. They'll try to push it off. So the conversation is always, I'll come back to you. Never no. They already know whether or not they're going to buy. They just don't want the conflict. So, like, let's say hypothetically, you walk into my martial arts studio, right? I already know that I have to get past those 5 objections before you sign. I can do that before you ever take the class. It's very simple. It's really easy. Watch. Well, we'll sell you on the program right now. You don't even know what I'm selling, right? You walk in the door. I'm going to say, hi, my name's Rob. What's your name?
Hi, Tommo.
Hey,
What?
nice to meet you. Are you coming from home or work?
Work.
Oh, awesome. So now you can no longer tell me it's too far away later on, just so you know. You just told me you work right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? All right, cool. So awesome. How long you been thinking about doing something like this?
A couple of weeks, I guess.
Couple of weeks. Man, that's awesome. Guess what? Now you can no longer tell me you have to think about it. You've been thinking about doing this shit for weeks. So we keep going. So awesome. What are you coming in here for? You're here to learn self-defense, here to lose weight.
Oh, I want to lose weight 'cause I'm a fat little fucker.
Okay. Well, how much are you looking to lose?
Ah, at least
Two-
15 pounds.
15
Shut up,
pounds.
you.
Okay, cool. Definitely. I can see how that would help you out in your health. And you have the support of your family. Your
Fuck
family
you.
wants, your family wants you to lose weight to support you in this.
My brother wants me to lose weight. Yeah. 'Cause
Okay,
he likes to
awesome.
take the piss.
Now you can no longer tell me you have to think that you have to consult somebody about it. You already told me that you have support of your family. So now I go, okay, well, we have classes Monday through Saturday. How many times will we be able to come to class, depending on if you like it or not?
Probably once or twice.
Awesome. Well, most people do about once or twice, but also to add to the conversation that we're having outside of this play is now you can no longer tell me you don't have time. You just told me you can come at least once or twice a week. So now we're only left with one more objection. I just got through all of those hurdles and you haven't even taken class yet. There's only one objection left, and that's money. So what's going to happen is you're going to take the class. Once you're done, we're going to sit down and I'm going to give you options. The options that I'm going to give you are going to be such a good deal today that you can't make an excuse about money later. So for instance, let's say you sign up and I go, okay, well, there's 2 options. You can pay month to month. If you decide that you'd like to do the month to month option, it's going to be about $100 more than you would normally pay in our year contract. If you would like to sign up for an entire year and you feel committed to the program, here's the option. Now, we do have a great first day special. If you decide today is the day that you'd like to sign up, our special is we'll waive the $200 registration fee. I'll give you your second month free, completely free. All you have to do is sign up today and pay for your first month, and I'll give you a free uniform. Which one works better for you, the month to month or the year?
I'm going to go to year.
Boom,
Take all
done.
the money. It's a blank check.
But look, we're sold. It doesn't matter what I taught. If you notice in the conversation, we never talked about what the style was. We never talked about what you learned in the class. I never needed to talk about any of that shit. So in order to sell somebody up on a program, it's not really about what it is you're selling. It's how you're presenting it and understanding how to sell somebody. Now, another thing to think about is none of that was high pressure sales. I never pressured you to do shit. I gave you options. I already knew what the objections would be. And before you even knew it, if we weren't having this conversation and you were a casual student coming in, you wouldn't even know I was selling you on anything. I'm asking basic questions. And those basic questions you're giving the answers to, those answers are eliminating your objections later on down the road. And so to a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, that's kind of fucked up. All right, now imagine this. It's fucked up if I'm taking advantage of you, if I'm doing it for personal gain and not helping you. It's not fucked up if you're a dude who, let's say, for instance, the doctor is ordered to lose 50 pounds or you're going to fucking die. Now what I'm doing is I'm getting around your own personal bullshit to help you lose that weight. Because if you would have lost the weight, you would have already fucking done it. The truth is that you want the help. That's why you walked in the studio. And I'm taking charge of the conversation just like I would take charge of my classroom. You don't get to teach the class, right? I teach the class. That's what you're paying me for. So you don't get to guide the conversation about your health. You came to me, you told me what the issues were. Now I tell you what I can do to help you. You either buy it or you don't. It's that simple. But if I'm a shitty salesman What it's going to sound like is, hey, how's it going? Sign this waiver. All right, cool. Hop on the mat. We'll get you ready in about 30 minutes. You sit there in the chair for about 25 minutes. I don't speak to you. No one else comes and talks to you. I don't introduce you to anybody. You go to the bathroom. The bathroom's got pee on the floor. You walk in the studio. It smells like feet. Then you get on the mat. You learn the class, and you may have loved the class, but nothing else rings true to you wanting to sign up. You just enjoyed a class. So it's easy to say no to that.
100%.
And I suppose that's what the other guys may or may not directly know that, but these, should we call them charlatans? Is that a good word?
Frauds, yeah.
Frauds, yeah.
Charlatans. Couldn't
That's
be
a
more
great
English.
word.
You charlatan. How
No, but-
dare you?
No, but they are. They're
Good
no,
God.
these guys, and they're no different to the guys that sell the pyramid schemes or the mediums that say that they're talking to your dead relatives, etc., etc. They're no different. They know how to manipulate people into. I mean, like you just said, it's not hard to manipulate people. If you've ever done any sales ever, you know how. I mean, you just go and try and buy a car. that guy is on you like from the moment you get there. You try and buy a car, and it's like, oh yeah, you know what's wrong with your current car? Like, you know, you seem like a fashionable guy. Do you want to come and have a look at the BMWs rather than the VWs? They all do it. It's
I get stuck all the time, mate. I go into a clothing shop, and they're like, "Do you want to get this store card?" I'm like, "Yes, I do." It's not until I fucking order from it's like, "You don't want that? Why don't I want that? That's a credit card, basically. Is it?"
Well, I'm the complete opposite. Like, I'm pretty sure they do this in the States. Like when you go and try and buy something, and they're like, "Can I take an email address?" Like, no, you can't. Over here, it's a nightmare if you buy any like tech goods, because they want to take your home address. They want to take, and I'm always like, "What do you need that for?" Anybody that's ever with me is like, "Darren, don't be an arse. Just make sure you buy the product." I'm like, "Well, I will." They'll still give me a receipt. They don't need all my. I am the worst.
It's the
I
online
literally
receipt.
Just like, no. Yeah, I don't need it. Give me that little bit of paper.
Yeah, you're not.
You don't need all my contact information.
It's fine. Don't worry about saving the planet with that little bit of paper. We can recycle that shit. Don't you
Well, you know, they do that a lot in the United States, and that's just information gathering, and like if you walk into a martial arts studio, usually when you go to sign off on the waiver, there's usually information gathering stuff on there, address, emails, and stuff like that. That's pretty standard to follow up with you about stuff. I agree. I don't give that shit out either. But selling people on ideas and thoughts and concepts is not as difficult as we want to believe. We want to believe that we aren't brainwashed every day, but we truly are. It's just a matter of what are we willing to be brainwashed with. For instance, even overseas that I've been to, they always have like the extra candy bars and gum right by the checkout at like grocery stores. That's a small, slight form of brainwashing. You walked around this entire store, you're hungry, and now here's this quick little snack you can have right now instead of waiting to go home, a candy bar or a soda or something like that, water. Somebody smarter than us figured out that you would be fucking hungry walking around the store, and they were like, it'd be a good idea. I bet you people would buy this. And of course we do. We fall for that, but we fall for all kinds of other stuff. That's why people have commercials. If commercials didn't work, they wouldn't spend so much money on advertising.
But it's the same with how they lay out a supermarket, isn't it?
Yes.
That everything that they want you to buy is at eye level, and the stuff that's probably not as profitable will be on the top or the bottom shelf. So it's not in your eye line, so you're more likely to go and buy that product. It's an advertiser's dream, isn't it?
And even the way
it's all colourful.
Yeah.
It's
even the layout, like what's healthy is always on the outside of grocery stores. So like the outer perimeter of a grocery store is usually what's healthy for you and good for you, and whatever's in the aisles is typically not. And they do that on purpose as well. So like, let's say for instance, I'm walking and I want fresh fruit. Well, they don't have that in the middle of the store. They have that on the outside of the store. Let's say I want like something from the deli, something fresh. That's on the outside of the store. Let's say, you know, they're whatever is usually healthy or good for you is usually on the outer perimeter. And again, that's very purposeful. That's not an accident. But again, like what we were just talking about, that's a form of brainwashing. We kind of get used to this in our day-to-day life, and then we just kind of fall for it. Same thing with politics, same thing with religion, same thing with cults, same thing with how we do our relationships, how we decide to initiate conversations with people. Like nowadays, when we initiate a conversation with a person, it's much more rare that our first communication is a phone call. That it's more rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying now we're a little more programmed to talking to people through Instagram or social media, and that's like the first form of communication now. It's like sending somebody a direct message. It's just more common.
I slid into the DMs and I 2-footed.
It's
I was like, hey, what's up?
just a simple hey. 30 hays later, you get like a thumbs up.
Yeah, back to the I'm gonna call it a grocery store because I prefer that. But anyway, I'm a sucker for a meal deal. So I'll go in and I'll be like, oh, I just need a sandwich, but then it's like, but you can have some crisps and a drink. It's like I don't really need crisps and a drink, but it's a deal. So and then you end up buying like 3 of them. You're like, and then you eat them all while you're crying because you keep gaining weight.
Goddamn sandwiches.
But
yeah, it's like the landscape of martial arts isn't. I think the landscape of martial arts and the reason that so many people fall for it is because of the deep-rooted, I would say bullshit, but it's just true. Like the deep-rooted traditions of martial arts are kind of taken advantage of by charlatans, which is a fantastic word again, or frauds. You know, it's taken advantage of. So, and I see it all the time, especially with people who like to start working at martial arts studios. Like they feel like they owe something to their instructor. Like they do. They put their instructor on such high pedestals that they wind up working there for free. They wind up like doing it in trade for classes when they forget this is a real job. And so in a real job, you get paid real money. You can't pay your light bill with a gi. You can't pay your light bill with free classes. You know what I'm saying? You can't pay your mortgage with that. You don't pay rent with that. And so these young kids get taken advantage of by joining these martial arts studios young. And then all of a sudden, they're like, I want to work here. And of course, the instructor is more than happy to get the help. But then when they go, they forget that this is a job. And so the instructor kind of sits back on that, oh, honor, integrity bullshit while they take advantage of their student and allow them to work for free. This is just one of many cons that happen in the martial arts that we see all the time, but we completely ignore because of honor and respect and integrity. So the instructor can hide behind this veil, this wall of honor and integrity. Meanwhile, they can reach their hands into people's pockets and lives and take advantage of them and basically turn a martial art into a religion. When it's not a religion, it's a service that you are offering. You wouldn't do this shit with any other job. You wouldn't go to your plumber and be like, dude, teach me how to plumb. And the plumber's like, yeah, man, you can start working for me for free. And then like years and years later, maybe I'll pay you eventually. You wouldn't do that shit. You wouldn't do that with your barber. You wouldn't go to your barber and, man, I love the way you cut my hair. Can I start working for you? They're like, no, you got to go get certified. You know, you have to go learn how to do this job. I can't just let you work here for free and in hopes that one day you get to learn how to do the shit because we all have bills to pay. And the instructors know that and they take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, I dealt with that probably about 5 years ago now with the whole CrossFit movement because and it's not CrossFit as a brand, but it's how they initially laid out their the way you could become an instructor, which was that you pay $1,000 or £1,000, you do a weekend course, and now you're a CrossFit certified one instructor after a weekend course, whereas the rest of us fitness instructors have spent 5, 6, 7 years getting to the point where you feel that you're in any way ready to be running your own center or box or whatever you want to call it. And I got hit quite hard about 5 years ago because I had a gym myself doing basic, not dissimilar to what CrossFit were doing. But yeah, I got hit hard by like 2 or 3 CrossFit gyms opening up, guys that were leaving my place because of the social media presence of CrossFit and all the documentaries that were coming out and the CrossFit games and people going over. Now I think they've sorted it out. I think it's a lot more difficult to run a decent CrossFit gym. But initially, like I felt like I was doing what you were doing, are doing with the martial arts side of stuff, with what it's like to be a gym instructor. I was like, this is bullshit. Like you can't spend 2 days doing a course that I spent like literally years learning anatomy and physiology, going and spending time with other instructors and learning like different mobility drills and investing hundreds of pounds of my own money into becoming affiliated or under the sort of umbrella of already established instructors and getting their information. And then you get some guy that done a 2-day course. He's now open, I don't know, CrossFit, whatever. And it's like, now he's taking the clients that you've spent a long time, a long time just teaching them. And all of a sudden, I mean, I'm sure it's the same with martial arts, with fads. The fitness industry is terrible for it. 1 minute it's people sat on a big bouncy ball. The next minute they're suspended by their feet by something that should be a gymnastics ring, doing a push-up when a push-up would be more than sufficient. But because this is the latest fad, or you've got a DVD you can do in your front room, which you're never going to do.
Hey,
and
amazing. Wash your mouth out.
What's that?
Gunnar Peterson is amazing.
Gunnar Peterson and his polo shirt, yeah. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is that I can feel, and it's on such a small scale in comparison to martial arts, because like you say, martial arts is so deep rooted. But you get hit with these fads, and then for me, you had this cult of CrossFit that sort of blanketed and started picking apart people that had worked very hard to establish their businesses, and they basically got spanked by CrossFit in the early days. Not so much now. Now they've really sorted their stuff out, and you have to be, and for the better. That is good, because there's so many good, and CrossFit's doing a lot of good stuff, and you see less of the horror injuries. I don't know if you remember, about 3 years ago, you'd see people trying to do hurdles that were as high as their shoulders, getting spinal injuries. People trying to do Olympic snatches after training for like 3 months, and dropping a bar over their neck. You don't see so much of that now, and I'm guessing that all that negative media that eventually would come sort of hit them hard. But in terms of, like, if you look at martial arts, you've got your kung fu's, your karates, and then you also have like the spin-offs of those things where, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with kung fu. It's maybe practically not as viable as maybe Muay Thai, but there's a lot of benefit to something like keeping disciplined in something like an old Chinese martial art. And I'm sure there are some parts of it that are quite effective in something like mixed martial arts. But then you've got these crazy people who think that they can control the chi or chakra or whatever they can. Because I saw, there was one thing that I saw. Well, there was 2 snippets of one of your videos, and I think it was a bit of a compilation video, where one of them was a guy with some sort of machete type knife, and he hit himself in the forearm. And I was thinking, you've literally gone 100% in here and believed whatever your instructor said, or you're the instructor and you're mental, and you think that you can control the fact that this blade. But by the way, I'm a chef, and I know how sharp knives are.
Oh yeah.
I've got a cut, and he just twats himself in the arm, and then you just see it, and you see the horror on his face. And the other one was The guy lying down, and the other guy
sword
smacks him in the throat.
Well, to add to the first one you were talking about, so that particular video is in Indonesia, and the art is called Salat. Now, over in the United States, and in all honesty, Salat to me, from what I've seen, wholeheartedly, I believe this, over here in the United States is way more viable and real than in Indonesia where it comes from. And the reason is because that particular thing that he was practicing is something called Tenaga Dalam. Now, Tenaga Dalam is their version of chi, and they truly believe wholeheartedly that it does protect them from harm. And so, like you said, that guy went all in. It's not just his instructor, though. It's a deep-rooted belief in that culture, period. And of course, it mixes really well with their art. You'll see things like them taking razor blades and running it across their face and their tongue and not getting cut because they're not real razor blades. You'll see them pour acid on themselves and others and not get burned because it's not real acid. Although there was another clip in that video that you're talking about, which is the trailer to our documentary we're working on.
Yeah.
And in that same trailer, you'll see a group of children, although it happens really fast, a group of children roughly around the ages of like 12 to 15 years old, all laying down on their stomachs. And
with the car.
Yeah, and then the military-sized truck runs over them. Now, when that happens in the video, you see them getting run over, and you're like, oh, that's fucking crazy, right? Well, that's an old school trick. If the truck keeps rolling, then, you know, it disperses the energy as long as the truck moves quick enough, and, you know, it spreads out the energy, kind of like laying on a bed of nails. But in this particular video, the ramp was so much higher than the body that when the truck comes off, it lands on the first kid and then slowly runs over the others. Well, the first child dies, and then the second one, they take like about 5 minutes to revive. This first kid's dead because in the name of that martial art and spirituality, they truly believed that this Tenaga Dalam, this internal power, was going to save that kid's life. There are thousands of people watching that demonstration. In the name of martial arts, they killed the kid because they believed in stuff like that. Now, this is just one video I got sent. I get sent hundreds of videos over the last 6 years that I can't showing these frauds getting people hurt or killed. I can't post them because, of course, the social media will get them taken down. But this is why we're going after a documentary, is because as much as we want to laugh at the frauds and we think it's funny, which it is, I'm not going to lie, there is another edge of the sword where people are getting hurt and dying in the name of what these frauds are teaching. And it's very much a real problem. It's a real thing that people are really believing because these guys have understood how to manipulate people so well that they have thousands of followers. I mean, just look at the page. I've been posting every day, one time every day for the last 6 years, and I have not run out of content. You know, there's a reason for that. There's a reason I haven't run out of content.
And that's why Joe Rogan loves him so much.
Which is appreciated. It's appreciated.
Have you
surfer as well, didn't you? Was oh fucking hell, what's the surfer dude?
Oh, Kelly Slate.
That's it. He did you a video as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I was very fortunate.
And he's got the Granite Zero podcast on there as well.
Yeah, it's appreciated, dude. It was really, really cool of him to do that. He's been a follower of the page for a while now, and he actually reached out when we said we were going to start this documentary, and he was like, "Hey, I'd like to help. I'd like to be involved in some way." And this is kind of his way of helping, is kind of giving his nod. He's a jiu-jitsu guy as well. You know, he's got great jiu-jitsu quotes. One of which saying that if you're going to get your child involved in something, he really highly suggests it be jiu-jitsu. And I agree wholeheartedly. You know, I love martial arts, not just jiu-jitsu, but I think it's a very well-grounded in reality martial art to start. And then if you'd like to branch off, you know, you're more than welcome to do so. But I do think, especially since it takes so long to get a damn black belt in jiu-jitsu, it's a good place to start. It takes you forever to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
It fucking humbles you as well.
Yeah, just getting your ass beat all the time. You know?
I got humbled the other week. I was rolling with a guy that was probably half my body weight, I'd probably say, and it was like wrestling a tiny chimp that had Hulk strength. It was ridiculous. The only reason why I managed to get free once the whole time was because I accidentally kneed him in the dick.
Hey, if it works, it works. A little crowd, you know.
Should have been wearing a cup. He would have been fine.
There's been a few instances, and I think it has been brought to my attention by Rogan, where these sort of fake senseis or charlatans, again, Sean, have actually gone for like an MMA fight, haven't they? And they have come out absolutely terrible. There's one, and I think it was quite early on in the Joe Rogan experience. I think it might have been when he had Uriah Faber on originally, and they brought this guy up, and it was a guy I can't remember what martial art it is, but it's one of the older martial arts, and he was claiming that the guy would get nowhere near him, and he just came up again. It might have been a Thai boxer, stroke jiu-jitsu guy, and literally, and he's an old man.
Mm.
And he comes up against, you've probably seen the video, comes up against this, I'm pretty sure it's a Thai fighter, and he literally just beats the shit out of him in the first, like, I don't think the video even lasts 30 seconds. He literally goes up thinking he can throw these, so he clearly believes what he's doing. Tries throwing these, like, all I can say is like force pushes. Like he's a Jedi.
You watch too much fucking Tommo.
No, but that's what it looks to me. That's what it looks like. Like he's throwing he thinks that this guy's going to throw like a switch kick to his head, and he's going to be able to go and stop time and space or something. And the guy just literally he leathers him around the head about 6 times, and the guy's like an old dude, just basically unconscious on the floor. And it's like, how? Like, how is this information not just out there? That's like, well, here you go. You could go and do this. It'd probably be good for your health, but don't believe that if you ever get into an actual fight, or if you sign up to a martial arts fight, that you're going to get anywhere, because it's not teaching you that. It's teaching you, I don't know, discipline maybe, and respect and honor, and that's fine. But that's not teaching you how to defend yourself or anything like that.
Yeah, that guy, I forget how to pronounce his name, but it's like XU, Xu Shao Dong or something like that. I'm really bad, that's like his name. But over in China, that dude's story is incredible. Like, we actually want that to be a part of our documentary story so bad, because he has been kind of ostracized by the Chinese government because of the work that he does. So he has gone, I think he's had like 7 matches now against these fraudulent Kung Fu masters, and he's won all of them because he wants to call those people out. And he's not doing it for a greater cause. He said multiple times he's not doing this for the betterment of anything. He's doing it just because he wants to fight these people. And so I respect the fact that he's doing it for his own reasons. He's not doing it because he wants to start this movement, although whether he believes it or not, he already has. But he single-handedly has been fucking up the Chinese government, because one of their major import-exports is Kung Fu. Think about it. Like, how many people travel to China to learn Kung Fu? How many Kung Fu movies we watch, right? All these Chinese movies that have come out. And so by him doing what he's doing, he's basically showing that, their deep-seated culture is a load of crap. And of course, the Chinese government doesn't like that. So they actually have something called a social credit standing, which is like a credit score, basically. But it's based off of how well you do socially, kind of like a weird Twilight Zone thing. And because of what he's done, his social standing is like a D or something like that. So, like, he can't get on nice parts of trains. I don't think he's allowed to leave the country. Like, the last fight that he had, they made him wear clown paint. Like, this is some serious government thing that's going on.
Fucking Black Mirror.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
Black Mirror.
That's a real thing.
But
the 5 stars.
Yep, look it up. It's a real thing happening with that guy.
For the Chinese government, surely his last...
Can't get on the train.
His last fight, he has to wear clown face.
Yep.
That should put him up, because if he fucks somebody up dressed as a clown, in my head, I know we're not in China, but
Well,
in
I
my
mean,
head,
they made him
if
wear
I
his
could-
paint.
Not Chinese.
So, like, if you look at him during the fight, he was wearing like white and blue paint, like smeared across his face. Like, it's a lot different. Like over there, the way that their clowns are dressed up are different than ours. But for him, he wasn't dressed like a clown. He was in an MMA out. He just had to wear the face paint.
Clowns.
You
No
know.
clowns. Let's not do clowns. Unless you're the Joker, don't be a clown. Do something
But it's
else.
fascinating. I really think that one day they're going to make a movie about that guy's life because of what he's doing right now is just the most fascinating shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, imagine there's something called the Great Firewall of China, which is basically like China's way of governing what information comes in and out of China.
yeah, I've heard like you can't have Google, you can't like. I've heard quite a bit on this. There's so much that you can't do if you go over to China. Like you can't, everything's firewalled, isn't it?
But but imagine how strong his story is that it was able to get outside of China. Like, isn't that, to me alone, is fascinating. But then now over here in the United States, of course, like, you know, I'm not the only one who does what I do. There are plenty of people out there who don't like frauds in the martial arts, who fight against it and stuff like that, who do pressure testing. I think we all just do it a different way. Mine is very much an information discussion type way, where his is like, well, I'll fucking fight you. You know? Like, no, put the gloves on.
But also there is some credit in that though, because I think like I'm in the BJJ Underground like Facebook page, and I see people calling out other instructors and stuff, and like I don't pay that much attention to it because I mean I don't think I've rolled in the last like 4 years. And I'm there. I see it every now and again. Every now and again, there's some cool information that comes up, but I don't participate. I'm not going to and from. But obviously, if you're in it day to day, it's a good place. Like if you've been to a because there's plenty of people out there who claim to be a black belt who aren't a black belt. It's like, where'd you get that black belt from? And that is a great thing about jiu-jitsu is you can't buy that black belt. There's a lot of martial arts, isn't there, out there that the more money you've got, the further that you can go. And, you know, that's just unfortunate. But I like the fact that BJJ has always stayed true to you have to earn it. You can't just get your black belt. You can't even get your blue belt. You have to compete, or you have to be training regularly, however your instructor sees fit. But
fucking shows on the mat.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, absolutely. And what I think is great about this guy is he's just gone, okay, if your martial art's that good, let's have it. Let's see.
Let's just go.
And I think that's rather than go about it any other way. It's like, well, come on then. If it's that good, let's just have a scrap and let's see if your force choke works on me. Because not everybody can do that though. But it's nice to see that there is a guy that's gone, well, you know what, I live in this shit. I've had my head kicked in, or I've given out a few KOs from the old right there, Fred. Let's see if this magic works.
So I have a different theory about it, you know, like I do, trust me, for the shit that this guy has to go through from the actual Chinese government, and he still continues to fight these guys. I have nothing but respect for the guy. I mean, I have nothing but respect because he's going through some shit to be able to do what he does. I mean, the legacy that he's leaving behind for his name will be remembered for a long, long, long time. But here's how I see it. So in the United States, we had this thing called the Truth Campaign. And the Truth Campaign is an anti-smoking campaign where they basically just started showing these commercials that showed that tobacco was going to kill you, and that what the cigarette companies were doing, what they put inside cigarettes, how many people were dying. And they spread all these facts around so that way more people were informed to make their own decisions. And I truly believe that people have the right to make their own decisions however they want. Now, with that said, at no time did they ever go up to the president of a tobacco company and punch him 15 times in the face to prove anything. And I truly believe that if you look at most martial artists, we have a window of like 20 years at the most of us being active, real competitors. And then after that, the shit's gone. So I would never walk up to somebody, let's say Master Carlos Gracie Jr., right? And challenge him to a fight because he's a fucking old man. If I beat his ass, does that prove that what he's done in his martial arts career is illegitimate? Just because Anderson Silva, just because Anderson Silva lost to Chris Weidman, does that mean that he was not at one point in time the best in the world? You know what I'm saying? So to me, fighting only proves this much. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean that you can't pressure test certain bullshit. For instance, if I said, hey, dude, you can knock people out with your mind, right? All right, cool. I'm not going to physically fight you, but what I want you to do is do that on me. I will stand here. Let me see you do it. Now, that's different because now it's the ball's in your court. I'm not fighting you. I'm not trying to hurt you in any way. I just want you to prove to me. Or like they say, okay, well, if I touch you here, touch you there, it's going to knock you out. Okay, I won't fight you. Do it. I don't need to beat someone's ass to spread the truth. And so that's kind of like I think where me and him differ. Also, a big thing about where me and him differ is that he's not doing it for like any type of a movement or a cause. He's just doing it because he wants to do it. Where I truly do want to help people in this community. Like I really do. It's the only reason I do the shit.
Do you think maybe he was bullshitted at some point? And then he did. And do you think maybe he was like he got slighted by this in some way, and now he's just like, what, fuck you, I'm gonna hit you.
He's like, I'm not having any of this shit. Hey,
do you think maybe it was a bit like a Karate Kid situation? He'd been taught by Mr. Miyagi. He got into a fight.
And he went, what the fuck am I doing?
And he gets laid out, and he goes, "This is bollocks. We're gonna have to go."
Why am I paying the
you know what I think?
Handiwork?
I think that he saw this guy who was knocking people out with his mind, and from what I gather, from what I've learned, there's a guy who does something called fight commentary breakdowns. And he's probably like the guy to go to about all this information because he speaks Chinese and he's been following the stories for years, just kind of covering it. And from what I gather is it all started from online back and forth talking. And then that guy who gets knocked out, the video you were talking about, accepted the challenge, truly believing that he would beat this guy who's way younger, way stronger, and fighting for real. He winds up getting his ass beat, but then that video, again, jumps over that great firewall and goes viral. And everybody and their mom has seen this. And so all of a sudden now this guy becomes this like marker. Like this is the guy that we're looking at to like fight these frauds. And then so he was like, fuck it, I'll keep doing it. And then now it's like who he is. I don't think it originally was the intent, to be honest. I think it took over for him, not the other way around.
I wonder though, on the flip side of that, with the guy that got his ass kicked in that original video, the old guy, like he's believed that for a long time. That you surely can't get to the point that you've got students and stuff if you're going to accept a fight with a younger guy who knows how to fight, you must believe in what you've been teaching, or that you can at least defend yourself.
Oh, he believed it. I'd say 75% of the people that I post, from what I've noticed, really believe that they can do the things they say they can do.
But what must the effect of that? Like because he got fucking laid out, didn't he? In that video. I wonder what the after effect on him must have been, because he's like, well,
mental fucking issues going on there now. He's like, what? That's like finding out Father Christmas isn't real. Devastating.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Devastating.
Well, imagine, so like from what I've seen anyway, and of course we're going to cover a lot of this in a documentary, but from what I've seen is it kind of starts off like they're legitimate martial artists. Like they start off this way, right? When they're younger, their 20s, their 30s, they're good at what they do, whatever it is, right? And then they start getting these people around them and their students to kind of hype up their name, which if you've ever been a part of any martial arts studio, that's kind of a part of every studio I've ever been to, is the students put their instructor on this high pedestal. Like, oh my God, so-and-so is amazing. There's no way anybody could beat him. I can't believe he can do the things that he does. Some martial artists are able to ground themselves in reality and go, I'm just a man. I can lose. I can win. I practice and I can be good at what I do, but I never make a mistake of thinking that I'm greater than I am. I am who I am, and this is it. I'm not this god or deity. While other people, I don't think they have the capacity to take things the same way. And so when they're surrounded by all these students praising their name and talking about all these great feats that they can do, I think that starts to fuck with you. And I think that eventually you just kind of fall down that path of believing that bullshit, even though it's not true. But you have so many people shoving it down your throat, it's hard to ignore. I think a prime example, and most people will probably agree, and I could be wrong, but this is just my opinion. I think a prime example is Steven Seagal.
I was just about to ask. I was literally.
So if you look at him, he's the prime example of a guy who in his 20s and 30s was highly respected, right? I mean, people loved his original movies. People loved his martial arts stuff. I remember watching Mark for Death and thinking he was the baddest motherfucker on the planet, right? And then, like, as he gets older, though, imagine how many people were feeding his ego. And I'm sure he already had one, but imagine being surrounded by nothing but people kissing your ass all day long. And then all of a sudden you start to believe it. Another person like that is Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley had all these people kissing his ass, and then he starts martial arts, and then they kiss his ass about martial arts, and then have him believing that he can take punches to the throat without being hurt, had him believing that he was this karate god when he was quite awful, to be honest. And
I've seen videos.
But he just wasn't good. He was surrounded by people kissing his ass. And now take that, and those people have other things they can fall back on. Steven Seagal can fall back on acting, and he's got a band. He's got like all kinds of shit, right? Elvis had being Elvis, right? He can fall back on that even if he sucks at martial arts. But these other martial artists, all they have is martial arts. That's it. And so when you have like all these yes men pumping that shit into your head and you let that shit start to seep in, now you really believe it. And I think that that's where the delusion comes from. That's where you get guys like George Dillman, who believes he can knock people out with his mind, is because he didn't start off that way. He was fed that, and then he started to believe it, and then he started feeding it back, and it just keeps going back and forth of his students kissing his ass and him feeding more bullshit to his students until eventually there is nothing real left in this world. It's just his delusion that was built by a lot of people, including himself.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
A lot of legitimate pro fighters as well are suckers to that, where they think they're untouchable. They're getting fed by all their camp that they are the greatest. They're this and that, and then all of a sudden their lights are shut off, and then they go on a downward spiral. Like, been a few top fighters that have done that. Case in point, the likes of Ronda Rousey. Yeah, she was a phenom in her time. People blowing smoke up her ass left, right, and centre, and then gets her head kicked off by Holly Holm.
And Steven Seagal can't run.
You know,
run. He's too fat to run.
Have you?
There's been a couple fighters like that. Like Mike Tyson talks a lot about that. Mike Tyson now, to me, is a guy who was very wise. Like, he lived a really rough life. He lived a hard, fast life at a very young age. He was put into stardom at a very young age. He had a great mentor in Cus D'Amato when he was younger. But then after Cus D'Amato dies, you know, his life changes because his mentorship had changed. And, you know, has like snakes in the grass, like Don King feeding him all this, you know, this bullshit. But he looks back on his life very self-deprecating. He looks back on his life and he can understand the flaws that happen in his life and who he is and why, which I think is one of the wisest things that we could do as a human being, is be able to look at the flaws in ourselves. I think a lot of us have a hard time with that. We want to believe that we're doing the best thing for ourselves when sometimes we're not. So listening to Mike Tyson, I think he at one point is he is the prime example of somebody who had a lot of yes men in his corner. He fed into that bullshit. He allowed it to take over his personality. And then it wasn't until years later, honestly, probably within the last decade, to where he was able to change his life around and use his story of that to help other people in a very selfless way, I have to add. I'm fascinated by shit like that. Oh, well, I want to plug one thing if I could. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Good.
So we've been talking about the documentary we're working on, which is to expose fake frauds and phonies in the martial arts. And we are crowdfunding right now, but I have a story that I want to tell so bad. There's a guy. His name is Lewis Martin.
Robot.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Sean?
Okay.
Hang on, Sean. Are you spazzing out here a bit?
It all spazzed out. Poor connection from somewhere. Just
okay.
that plug because we want that plug.
Okay. Well, so I do want to talk about
my connect is now just come back on. So we'll see what happens with Darren. Wherever are you still there, Darren?
He's still there.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Why does it do that? All I can see is you skipping rocks.
I mean, I have no clue. Sometimes connection shit happens, you know.
That was brilliant timing, though. It was like, can I plug something? Yeah, sure.
Well, I want to talk about this book. We actually are going to be interviewing this gentleman for our documentary, and his story is fascinating. He wrote, I don't know if you can see this or not, but he wrote this book called The True Believers. And it's a guy named Lewis Martin.
If you just hold that up a sec, I'll screenshot that. And,
yeah, by all means.
Hang on, where's my thing? Oh, the wrong way. Hang on.
That's okay.
True Believers. Yeah, cool. Got it.
So, and it's by a guy named Lewis Martin. And this book is about him being in a martial arts cult and finally getting out of it. And it talks about the entire process from the time he started all the way until he got out, and how he joined jiu-jitsu and how he felt in his first jiu-jitsu match and stuff. But this is fascinating because this is one person who has that story about being a part of those cult fraudulent martial arts studios, being taken advantage of, and then eventually realizing that he wasn't a cult and getting out. And that's the kind of thing we really want to talk about more than specific people and specific martial arts. In our documentary, we want to cover the general outline of what is a martial arts cult? How do people get taken advantage of? Talk to people who are currently leaders of these cults. Have them do their no-touch knockouts and stuff like that on us without conflict. If they want to fight and stuff like that, if that pops off, then fuck it, I'm ready to go. But if not, the goal isn't a premeditated assault. The goal is a good conversation. And talking with guys like Lewis Martin is fascinating because we get to take a look inside what it's like to fall for this and what thought processes happen. And maybe if we can do a good job on this film, we can help other people not fall into these cults. And that's really the goal here, is to kind of help people so that way they can realize either A, I'm in a martial arts cult now and I need to get out, or how, if I'm getting my child or I'm getting myself into a martial arts studio, what's the best course of action and what should I look for in order to keep myself safe and learn something that's legitimate that won't get me killed if I try it. And so with the documentary, we get an opportunity to do this on a very big scale. Instead of just the people that we have on our Instagrams or YouTubes, we can really dig in, talk to real psychologists about what's the thought process and the brainwashing. Go to these places, like go to China, talk to the guy who's fighting those fake martial artists. Find out what it's like to be that guy. Find out what it's like to be a part of the cult itself, and find out exactly how to stop this from happening for other people. And I think it's the whole process over the last 6 years, 22 years of being in the martial arts, but the whole last 6 years of my life has been dedicated to just calling out frauds, fakes, and phonies in the martial arts. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm no saint. I've fucked up plenty of times. I like to drink, I like to smoke, and I've done all kinds of shit, everything you could possibly do bad in the martial arts. Right? But at the same time, I give a fuck. I care about the martial arts. I care about people not getting ripped off. And I think that we as a community owe it to the people who are in martial arts now, who will be in martial arts later, to make sure that we call and draw a fine line in the sand of, we won't take that shit anymore. We're not going to let you take advantage of people. We're not going to just stand around and do our own shit while you are over there ripping people off. We're not going to let that shit happen anymore. And I think we can only do that as a community.
Yeah, I agree, and I think with a lot of things, especially now with the social media presence that a lot of things have, I think the great thing about just this short conversation we've had already is you don't seem to have any confirmation bias on these things. Like you identify when something's bullshit, but you're still looking at the fact of where these people may have come from, the fact that they probably initially started off with the best intentions and probably did very well for themselves as a person and as a martial artist. But what you're not doing is discrediting them completely. From what I can gather, anyway, from this, like I said, this short conversation, which is it's quite easy to do. Like you take, for example, like Rogan's chucked out that he's doing this carnivore diet at the moment, and then there's people jumping on to it saying, yeah, it's the greatest thing ever, and then you've got vegans coming out and slamming it, and then you've got Game Changers documentaries and coming out, and it's all about that this is the only way to do it, and hopefully you can. Well, you know, once you get all the funding you need and everything, that not just hopefully, I can almost guarantee you will. Hopefully, you keep this as a documentary that not just like me and Sean, but everybody will see, and it just lays it out. It's like, here it is. This is, you know, like you said, you've got plenty of experience behind you. Like 22 years. That's a full service in our military. If you do 22 years,
it'd be nice if I can get a pension. It'd be nice if I don't get none of that. I get a high five, and hopefully I can leave a mark before I die. Like the only thing you could really hope for, the best you could hope for in the martial arts, the best thing you could hope for retirement is that people remembered your name. That is all you get in this industry. People say, hey, I get to hang your picture on the wall. That's the best thing that could happen. Like you would die broke as fuck. No one remembering who you are is the worst thing in the martial arts. Like, because so many people come and go. Having somebody remember your name, like long after you die, is what we all want. And look at how few we have. Like how few people get their picture on that wall. How few people get bowed to after they die. It goes to show you how truly difficult it is to make a mark in the community. It's so fucking hard, but it's worth it. It's worth the struggle. It's worth self-perfection is what we're working for. We're working on being better people than we were the day before. And in the pursuit of that, maybe people remember who you are if you're lucky. But if not, it pays for itself in self-development. And that's the whole point of it, is being better people than we were the day before.
So, what sort of time scale have you got on getting this documentary up and running?
Well, of course, the faster we get to the funding, the goal, the quicker we can make the film. Right now, we're not filming until we hit 25,000. Once we hit 25,000, we have a good ball to roll with. We can go, okay, we can start filming. We won't have to worry about giving this money back because we can actually finish making a film, or we can spread it out. So we'll be in a much better place once we get there. But if we don't, we just give the money back and there is no film to be made. I mean, that's just all there is to it. We don't want to rip people off. People are paying specifically to have a film made. And if we can't afford it, then we can't do it. That's all there is to it. We just have to give it back and say we tried, and then we try again. Now, if we get all the funding, let's say before the time period, which I think we have 45 days left of crowdfunding, which is awesome. We still have plenty of time. But if we get all that within the time, then we should be able to put the film out and be done with it completely by November.
Really? That's that quick?
Well, we allowed ourselves 6 months for filming. And for us, 6 months is 6 months of filming, which is why it costs so much. It's a lot of people to feed, a lot of people to house, a lot of people to pay. But once we get that 6 months of filming done, then we have roughly about another 4 to 5 months of editing to make the movie look and feel like we want it to look and feel, which is in itself is even harder than filming, to be honest. Once we're done with that, then we decide how we would like distribution to go. We have a product we can say, hey, Netflix, hey, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whoever, would you like to distribute this for us and air it for us? And then, of course, they buy it from us. Maybe we get residuals. There's a lot that goes into the back end. And then, of course, if we don't go that route, then, of course, we can always shop it around at film festivals, which is the traditional way of doing it, and then have it played at film festivals. If it does well, then it gets picked up on its own by distributors. They go, oh, man, I saw your film at the Cans. I loved it. We'd love to distribute it through our network. How much do you want to buy it for? So we're really hoping to get the film completely done by November. We already have the storyline. We already know who we want to film. We already know what we want to do with the film. So we know we can put together a really, really good product if we just simply have the funds. If we have to make it on a lower budget, of course, we won't be able to make the film exactly the way we want to make it, but we can still make it on a lower budget. It just won't have as much snap as we would like it to have. Like, people want us to go to confront some of these guys. Well, again, in order to do so, we have to be able to afford to go there and pay the crew for their time. So it's all basically crowdfunding driven. If people really want to see this film made the way that we would like to make it, we already put everything out there completely transparent. We didn't even do some of the normal tricks that a lot of people do. So a trick that a lot of people do on crowdfunding is they start off with a lower number and then they slowly but surely make that number bigger because you get faster. Like, let's say we could have started and said, hey, we need $50,000. And then once we got there, go, okay, now we need 100. And then once we got there, saying, oh, now we need 150. But to me, that's bullshit. That's not being transparent. And so for us, we're like, this is exactly how much we need to make it. If you want to get this film made, donate. If we got half of the followers that follow McDojoLife, which is 500,000 worldwide, to donate $1, we'd be able to make the movie. And if the other half who don't donate just share the information, that helps us get the movie made. The support doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. It could also be just the support of sharing and spreading the word. That doesn't cost $1. That's a couple button clicks.
Yeah, exactly. That's a huge thing, I think, within the social media circle, is getting the information out there, because have it now, everybody. So it's not hard to just click and share something.
Exactly. It's free.
Especially if you care about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
like
that's the interesting thing is, like,
just for instance, let's have a little look. So I obviously put my story, didn't I, of that you're coming on the show. Just from me, we've had 71 views of that story. So that's 71 more people that have seen McDojoLife than you had earlier today.
Exactly. Which is huge, right? It's even one more person than the day before. You know, one more person than had seen it the day before. Like, right now, our crowdfunding is up to $10,660, right? Which, as of this morning, we were like right under the 10,000 mark. So now we're over that. So today alone, so far, we've raised roughly about $760. And again, but in the grand scheme of things, just one plane ticket for me to fly from Jacksonville, Florida to Fresno, California for our first meeting in pre-production, like real hardcore sit-down meeting with everybody, that's going to cost me just $350 just for that one plane ticket there and back. So if we raise 700 today, all that really did was allow me to go to the pre-production meeting and come back. And then that's not including the fact that I have to eat. That's not including where I stay, which I know to pinch pennies, I'll probably just stay at the studio there. You know, I'm willing to do the grind. I'm willing to sleep on every floor I have to sleep on to be able to make this film. So I'll pinch whatever pennies I have to, but I can't expect my film crew to go through the same thing I'm willing to go through for my project. They need to be paid. They need a hotel, even if I work for free. You know, I won't even eat. I'll buy 10-cent ramen noodles and live off of that shit for the next 6 months. Like, I'm dead serious. I just fucking love what I do for a living, and I'm willing to make that sacrifice to make that happen.
Yeah.
And but I can't expect my camera crew and my film crew to do the same, sacrifice the same I would.
I know exactly what you mean there. And it's nice seeing someone so passionate about something as well. Like, you get a lot of people that just sort of coast through life. I put a post up the other day about most of the time you're walking around with your head down, not really knowing what the fuck's going on. And not a lot of people have a passion or even a decent hobby to do anything. And like I said when we first were chatting off air, the reason why I started this, and every single fucking person that listens to the show knows that what I suffer with and why I started. But as soon as I had that focus, that goal, now my podcast is now my passion. the fact that I can reach out and get people like yourself, Liz Carmouche, Jack Shaw, Mason Jones, Josh Bridges, and a few other guests that are coming up soon, it's just a hell of a boost. And the fact that I'm passionate now about doing my podcast is giving me a new lease of life. It's giving me a bit more oomph to carry on. So it's fucking really nice to see someone so focused and so goal orientated and passionate about the subject that they're talking about.
Well, I'm a little selfish about it too. Like I have two fears in life. One of my fears is I'm terrified of heights. I don't know why. Makes no sense to me. I'm not scared of shit, but I am just terrified of heights and I can't help it. There's some mental block that won't allow me to do the shit. But the other, my honest to goodness thing that terrifies me sometimes and keeps me up at night is I am terrified that I'll go through life and would have not been remembered for anything that I've ever done, and I'll be forgotten. Because then you exist, because think about it, we don't exist way longer than we ever will exist. And so the time that we have is so finite on this planet to be alive that we don't even get to know. We don't get to know when we're going to die, right? So we don't even know, like I could die now. I could have a goddamn brain aneurysm on air and I would never know that. I would just pass on, right? So with that said, though, what am I going to do with the time that I have here? And the only thing I can do is try to live longer. Well, how do I live longer? I can't do that physically, but what I can do is if I leave a big enough impact on the planet, people will know that I was alive to begin with. Because it terrifies me to think that I'm going to be dead way more than I'm going to be alive. It terrifies me to think that the time that I had here meant nothing. It's just such a scary thought to me. It's like, you were here for what? And this is what I hang my hat on. This is what I'm here for. And so I will go to the ends of the fucking earth. I will go to fucking Indochina and fucking fist fight a dude in a goddamn coffee shop if it means that I can help people in the martial arts community from being ripped off. I will fucking do that because this is what my passion is. This is what I hang my hat on. This is what I hope to be remembered by. And again, that is a very selfish thing. I can't say that it's not. I'm doing that because I am selfish and I would like to live longer than after I die. I would like people to remember who I was. I mean, look at somebody like fucking Abe Lincoln or George Washington. You know, people know who these fucking people are well after they're dead. So does that make them dead? You know, it sounds like they're still alive. We're still talking about them as if we can go hang out with them tomorrow, but we can't. It's all about what they left, the stamp that they left on this life. And I don't want to be the guy who's not remembered after I die. That's some depressing shit, you know?
Is a strange question, seeing as we talk about martial arts and things. Who do you think would win in a fight, Abe Lincoln or George Washington?
Abe Lincoln. Abe Lincoln's actually in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. He's had over 300 catch wrestling matches. Abe Lincoln was a bad motherfucker, dude. If you want to talk about like some stories, I got Abe Lincoln stories out the ass. Abe Lincoln one time was giving a speech to become president. And while he's at the podium, a dude was talking shit in the crowd. Abe Lincoln stopped his speech, went down to the crowd, choke slammed the guy, and went up and finished his speech.
What the fucking Undertaker?
Here's another thing, right? So Abe Lincoln was known as a catch-can wrestler. He was a legitimate like wrestler. And so back in the day, he's actually in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. You can look it up. He has confirmed over 300 matches. The dude was a beast. Now, with that said, he one time after retiring from wrestling, he was no longer doing it. He was confronted by a group of 3 brothers, right? And these brothers challenged him one at a time to a wrestling match at like some local bar. And so Abe Lincoln was like, look, I don't do this anymore. It's not something that I do. I'm retired, but I have a friend who's willing to take you up on that offer. And so Abe Lincoln showed up to that bar to support his friend's fight. When he showed up, his friend did not. And so those 3 brothers who had challenged him to a match called him a liar to his face. And of course, what's his name is Honest Abe, right?
Honest Abe, yep.
Yeah. So he was like, well, fuck that. He's like, you're not going to call me yellow. You're not going to call me a coward. So there is a picture, you can look it up, of somebody who was at that bar, of him holding one of the guys up by his neck. Somebody drew this who was there at the scene. Abe Lincoln commenced to whooping that ass inside that bar because Abe Lincoln's a bad motherfucker. So like at the end of the day, if I had to pick any president to beat that ass, Abe Lincoln, I would take all day. Abe is a bad dude. Throwing it out there.
I like it. I like it. I think I found the photo. The drawing, should I say? Hold on.
Yeah.
Got my
like a pencil drawing. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, man. Abe. And what's sad is a lot of people don't talk about that about Abe. You hear all this other stuff, but you don't hear like this dude was a legitimate badass fighter, like legit. And catch can wrestling, it ain't like our like regular wrestling we see today. It's not like Greco-Roman. Catch can was a dirty fighting version of wrestling. Like these dudes in fights would like fish hook people and stuff. Like it was pretty brutal.
You have to turn your screen down.
Yeah, your screen's really bright.
You have to turn it right down and it'll come up. There you go. There we go.
Right
there we go, Abe. Abe looks jacked as well.
Abe was in shape, man. Abe was a...
And apparently, according to this bad boy, he's a hell of a trash talker as well. He didn't give two shits.
No, Abe would fuck you up. Like Abe, that's the kind of president I want. Like I want a president who, if a war broke out, it would just be him and another dude from another country, like another president from another country, and that our president would be like, yeah, I'll fight you over that shit. Like, no, don't worry about our army. I'll fight you. Me. Like, let's go. Like, that's the president I want. I want somebody who drinks just a little.
Fucking Abe Lincoln. I bet that wasn't in the movie, was it?
Wasn't what?
I bet that wasn't in the movie, Lincoln.
Yeah, I don't think it was. Unfortunately. Yeah. They want to leave out the good shit.
I bet it wasn't in the Vampire Killer one either. Vampire Hunter or whatever the fuck.
That wouldn't fly these days, though, would it? Can you imagine? Not that he would ever be able to do it, but like someone like Trump, somebody trash talking him, which he must get. He must. As soon as he opens his mouth, there must be somebody heckling. there has to be.
Just one
can you imagine him?
Hey, your hair shit. You're orange though.
Like,
but can you imagine him just going, right? I tell you what, the blaze is off.
See, I would respect that. Like we have, like in the United States, we have like a long history of like these presidents. Dude, I'm saying, like, we have like some of our presidents as of recent have been big fucking vagina McGinesteins, but like our founding fathers were some bad motherfuckers, dude. We were in the middle of war when we founded, right? So we were like, yeah, fuck you. We're going to do it ourselves. And they were like, all right, well, we'll kill you and take it back. They're like, good luck, motherfucker. Bring your ships over. Let's do this.
Hey.
And of course, here comes Britain. They bring their ships over, eat that ass. They go back, right? And they're like, dude, they kicked our ass. Like we had like Washington, right? Just some bad dudes. But that's what you needed, right? That's what you need as a president. You need as a leader. Like, although I have to imagine they probably were assholes. But yeah, but I mean, come on, you got the job.
I talking about that, I watched that TV series Turn on Amazon about Washington's first spies. That's a
oh yeah. I think I started watching that and then I got bored.
Hey, it's a good show.
No, it might be, but I got bored. I got bored. No, but yes, I get confused. There's that one in Frontier. That's the Canadian one, isn't it? With Momoa in it.
Yeah. He did a funny thing at a TV advertisement.
Was that in the bath?
No, he's that Jason Momoa bloke. He's fucking walking along and he says, "I'm just getting in from work." He takes off his shoes and the big platforms, so he's short like me. And he starts taking all his muscles off in his fucking gym body, and then he fucking pulls the wig off and he's
I saw that yesterday. It was like a Super Bowl commercial.
Oh,
hilarious!
Hey, Super Bowl. Were they was J-Lo and Shakira, were they hooking or?
All I know is they look fantastic. So they can do whatever they want.
Fantastic. How old's J-Lo? Like 50?
Yeah, I think she's like 50 years old. I think she's about like 43 or something.
when did they get? When did like old people? I remember like being a kid and seeing a 40-year-old and thinking, "You're old though." Like fucking wrinkly and shit.
Yeah.
Hey, you've got good skin, Darren, so it's fine.
For the record, I'm not 40, but I'm nearly.
It's creeping.
It's getting there. We're getting there.
Creeping up. But yeah, they what was the weird tongue thing she was doing? Just getting.
I have no clue. That was very strange. But hey, she makes
I'm
all
sure there's a lot of lesbians in the crowd going, "Oh my."
Well, hello.
Sean, you're getting yourself kicked off social media this week. I don't know.
Fantastic tongue action.
Did you see Bert Kreischer's Instagram post when he called it for J-Lo?
I did not.
J-Lo.
Did you see J-Lo holding her leg up, and then she's wearing like a leotard, but it's quite to the side?
Oh, well, hello.
Let me see if I can find it. No.
We don't care then.
But it's. I'll find it now. Bert makes me die. He's so funny.
Yeah, he's a funny dude, man. That whole crew is pretty damn funny.
Yeah. Here we go. For J-Lo. Jesus Christ. Well done, Bert. So, just dropped my coffee everywhere. Can we see this, or?
You need to go there.
Yep.
Go right a bit. No, your left. Maybe.
Now I just see my face.
Where you were going, because I can just see. No, that way.
Now it looks like I'm just really creeping on this book. My face is like reflecting in the thing.
I don't want to zoom in too much, but
yeah, we can't.
We can see the goodies.
You can see the goodies.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up later. The wife will be asleep anyway, so I'm gonna have to do something.
I just spilled my coffee all over the floor. Ah, well.
Drinking coffee for a change instead of red wine.
Yeah, it's usually a wine or a Guinness, isn't it, for a podcast?
Yeah. So, back to fake things. This could take a turn. It's not, though. We have a similar thing within military and veterans and things like that. We call them Walter Mitties. Basically, soldiers. You guys have over in the States, they call it stolen valor. Where you see the fucking guys with like a chest like that full of medals, and then you like confront them. And there's a brilliant website over here called the Walter Mitty Hunting Club. And they go and find it. And there's a recent one of an African fellow who is claiming to be like a general or something like that in the British military, and he's got all these medals that are like from World War One. Doesn't make any sense. But he's wearing things that you're like for example, he's got like this uniform on, but he's got the Air Force cap badge on a fucking Marine beret wearing. So it's just everything that you could think of. He just literally went, I want military. They went, yeah, I'm just going to wear it all.
Yeah.
And then he does all these videos saying that he's part of all sorts. And there's another bloke that has been like popping up and saying he's going to take this website to court and things like that. But the address is all wrong. It was all bizarre. But his rank was like Major General something or other. But he's also been knighted. So he's like Sir fucking Ronald Dickface or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It's like, well, you're clearly fake because you've not been knighted, mate. You can check that shit out. And it's like, what goes on in these people's heads where they got to go, right, should you just pretend? Just for...
I had a really good conversation. Do you know who Tim Kennedy is?
Yeah, I know Tim Kennedy.
Yeah, so I had a good conversation. I had him on my show. We chatted for a while. And then I asked him about that. I was like, what do you think is worse? stolen valor or people who lie about martial arts. And he had a very interesting insight to it. He said he thought people who lied about martial arts was worse, which to me, I thought the opposite, because I thought it was very disrespectful for people to pretend to be in the military when people in the military have died in order to have those ranks, those medals, that honor. People had to die for those things. And any military across the world, it doesn't matter what military it is, the story is always the same. You know, we're fighting for our country, for our home field, and people have died for me to be able to do what I do for a living, no matter where you are. But he told me he thought that the people who lied about martial arts were worse. And when I asked him about it, I said, why do you think that? And his response is very interesting. He said that most people who lie about being in the military, not all the time, but some of them have extreme mental issues, right? They're either mentally handicapped in some way, or like there's something's wrong with them in some way, right? And this is like a version of them trying to be better than they really are. And he said people who lie about the martial arts, on the other hand, they're having these people follow them and trusting that they're learning legitimate martial arts from these people when those people are lying, and that puts those people's lives at risk. Whereas the stolen valor people, the only thing they're really doing is disrespecting themselves because they're lying about it. They're only harming themselves, where the other guys are harming other people. And I thought that that was a very interesting insight from somebody who was a special forces gentleman who had
especially someone as high up as Tim. I agree to a certain extent on that. The one thing that really fucks me off with the stolen valor thing, especially over here, is the ones that make up fake charities. So you'll see a soldier stood there in his greens with a fucking charity tin, and they're like, "Oh, we're doing it for this charity," when that charity doesn't even exist. And a lot of people give to military charities because they want to help veterans or servicemen that have been injured, like our friend Robbo lost both his legs. Sort of thing. And then you get the complete polar opposite, where you get these World War II veterans and people that have been to Northern Ireland, Iraq, Afghanistan, that have done things. They try and do charity acts for, like, we have a thing called the Royal British Legion that looks after all veterans, whether you're Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force. They'll look at. So they stand there, they sell the poppy, and you donate, and then you get these fucking dickheads that think it's a good idea to make up these charities, like, for example, Iraqistan Heroes or something fucking ridiculous like that. And then you get bods coming over going, "Oh, this is what's this charity for?" "Oh, it's for people that didn't come home from blah blah blah." And then you look into it and you're like, "Well, that's just going straight into your pocket, you jumped up cunt." Pardon my French. I
think one thing that, if there is something positive to be taken from it, is I know a lot of guys who, you know, because I tell the story often, is that the first time I ever started working in the martial arts, I was going to join the Army over here in the States. And I was in what they call ROTC, which is like the Reserve Officer Training Course. And basically it's like all about being prepared to become an officer. And so I was doing that in high school. I did the JROTC. And so I was going to be joining in at like an E3 level or something like that. I don't know how it works for you guys, but for us, it's like a corporal, and which is the highest you can join, other than trying to just go straight to being an officer, as an enlisted man. And that was because I did the JROTC and I worked my way up. And so I went to the recruiter after taking my ASVAB test. And he was like, "Here's a list of jobs. I want you to go through here, see which ones you want, circle off 10, and then come back to me and we'll see what we can try to get you." So I went home. I had all these jobs to look over. I circled my 10. I came back. And walking up, that was the day I was supposed to sign up with my recruiter to join the military. And as I'm walking up, my phone rings and I just happened to pick it up. And it was my martial arts instructor. And he was like, "Yo, how would you like to have a job working for me?" And I made a decision right then. I just turned right back around. I got back in my car and I've been teaching martial arts ever since. But a lot of friends that I went to school with did enlist. That was the plan. And they did go overseas and they did die. And some of those guys, when they came back, weren't right anymore. You know, they just war does not do well for a lot of people. And while you're over there in that element, that's what keeps you alive. But when you come back, that shit comes with you. Everything you saw, everything you did, that it fucks a lot of people up, and justifiably so. It's understandable. But I've noticed that one thing that a lot of these guys really has helped them keep them going is the fact that they still identify as a soldier. You can't take that away from them. That's what really causes a lot of PTSD in people is you took away their identity. You're not allowed to shoot guns anymore. You're not allowed to go train anymore. You're not allowed to do the day-to-day routines that you're used to. You took that shit away from them. The same thing happens with people in prison. They're being in prison for 30 years. As soon as they get out of prison, they kill themselves because they're used to prison life. This is who they were, and now they're not anymore. Who are they? So that identity crisis fucks people up. But one good thing about these stolen valor guys is a lot of these guys who do come back, they can all agree on one thing. Fuck that person. You know what I'm saying? They can all have this one thing. They can say, you know, I earned this shit. You didn't. I can at least still stand tall and say I am a soldier, even though I might not be enlisted at the moment. I might be retired, but I am a soldier. This is who I am, and you're taking that right away from me. You're watering down what I do or what I did. You're tainting the water with your bullshit, and all the enlisted people can kind of get around that and say, "Fuck that guy." Well, I think that's the same thing in martial arts. You know, no matter what martial art we do, whether you do jiu-jitsu, karate, whatever it may be, we can all get together and say, fuck that guy. You know, that guy is full of shit. We might not agree on anything. Army and Navy might not get along. Air Force and Marines might not get along. But you know one thing we can all agree on? Fuck that guy. And I think that that's kind of like one beautiful thing about this is like it kind of allows a lot of people who might not necessarily get along in your day-to-day come together as a group, as a unified force to go after one piece of bullshit. And I think that helps a lot of people. I do. I really think that it helps a lot of people get past a lot of bullshit in their life is because you have one thing that you can all stand up and agree on and come together and still be a soldier, still be a black belt, still be that person. It's because you have one thing that you can basically say, I don't want that guy to exist anymore, you know? And I think that that's a beautiful thing. Even though there's a lot bad that comes out of it, sure, at least there's one good thing that comes out of it.
So, because I'm going to have to go in a second, but on that subject, this is sort of old news for Sean's podcast, but Sean actually got accused by a random person, by a troll account.
Okay.
So he set up like 2 or 3 troll accounts claiming that Sean was in fact faking his not the fact that he'd been in the military, but the fact that Sean suffers with PTSD. That's the podcast.
Yeah.
That he's actually been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, to the point that I've actually still got the screenshots on my phone of this troll account. He came up with the really original name of John Smith as well.
Okay.
And this guy, he's changed it. But this same guy, like when I read through the message, like Sean was clearly a little bit distressed by it. He was like, why is somebody doing this? Like I'm just doing a podcast to get out. What's he doing?
JJ Pierce.
JJ Pierce, cool.
Okay.
Well, JJ Pierce, because I know for a fact you will either see this or hear it. This is me flipping you the bird again. I've done it every single time that I've mentioned your name. Fuck you, you're a prick. But apart from, and also I will fight you if I ever meet you. I'll be the Chinese guy. But apart from that, this was something that came up in sort of like the highlight reel thing that was for your documentary, was the fact that you've had death threats and this and that. It's like, because like I said, I've literally got to go in a second. So have you got any advice for Sean, because this podcast, like literally talking to you, you've been mentioned on Joe Rogan. He's spoken to people that have been on the TV, and that all seemed to come in the last like couple of months. So I can only see what Sean's doing here, going from strength to strength and only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It started off as just Sean as a way of him getting his thoughts out there, and almost immediately he got trolled. how do you deal with that? How, like, you personally? Because obviously you seem like a very clear thinker. Like, you can see a situation and assess it and then act on it. Whereas in the beginning, in the beginning, like, it really hit Sean hard, and as his older brother, I had to sort of talk him down and go, Sean, like, reading this guy's messages, he's clearly, like, mentally not stable himself, whether he's still in the military, whether it's somebody Sean served with, whether it's somebody that's just in Sean's regiment that he used to be in. He's clearly, like, I was reading these things that he was saying that Sean's going to get, like, this might make you laugh. I can't be bothered to go. It's quite a while ago, so I'd have to really scroll through to find it. But he was saying that Sean's going to be judged in Valhalla, that he's not a real warrior, that Odin is going to look down on it. And I was reading it as an outsider with a clear head, going, Sean, clearly, it's not somebody that's okay. He's clearly attached himself to, you're doing something. He either doesn't like you and he knows you, or he genuinely believes that you're bullshitting. But the reason that he's thinking that is because he's clearly not in the correct mental state. Maybe he's just come back from a tour or whatever. And it really knocked Sean down a few pegs. And I'm guessing that you probably get I don't know, maybe most of your feedback will be positive, because you're calling out stuff that everybody can clearly see is bullshit. But you must get your fair share of negativity from...
Yeah, definitely. I've had death threats, which some of that was in the trailer. I've had people who, they take out their day on you. I can kind of, like, I think it's a little different, but maybe I can give a little bit of advice, because it's something that has helped me. But I started the martial arts because I have scars on my face. I was born with something called a cleft palate. And so when I was born, my whole face was basically just open, and they had to sew it back together. So my ears, my nose, my throat don't function the way that a lot of other people's do, because of the deformity that I was born with. And so I think I've had over 32 surgeries before I was 16 years old. So I'd constantly be going back to school with, like, a skin graft or stitches on my face, or my nose had to be repaired and all kinds of stuff, right? So I'm used to, throughout my entire life, people saying negative things towards me because they say negative things. It took me a very long time, to, especially as a kid being bombarded with it, to try to understand and really kind of get a glimpse into what people are like. And all I can say is I'm a hopeless optimist. So I truly, truly believe that the majority of the world are good people. And I think that we have bad moments. And I think that in a modern day time, if you put a camera up against somebody long enough, eventually you're going to see them do something you don't agree with. Eventually, the same thing would be said about all of us, because we're just people, we fuck up. And I think that when people vent to me, which is what I consider it, I don't think they're attacking me. I think they're attacking something negative in their life. And I think that I am the outlet in which they can use me to help themselves in some way. And so what I found is, by being overly polite to those people, I almost always have a positive experience from it. So for instance, what I used to do is I used to get really offended as a kid. I'd be mad that people would ask me questions about my face or my scars or want to fight me and all that stuff, right? And I didn't realize it until later on down the road, years later, that it wasn't me that was the problem. I am the outlet for them. I'm actually helping them by being the outlet for them to vent. And so, like, let's say somebody has a shitty life, they have something going on wrong with what they have going on in their life, shitty marriage, shitty job. Maybe they have a worse life than I do, which is a possibility. They might be living in poverty. This is the only escape they have, and the only control that they have in their life is to be able to attack someone else and vent the bullshit that they have going on for their life. And the moment that I started being polite to those people is the moment I felt like I grew as a person. Like, it's no longer about me, which is a very self-centered thing to think about. And I know it's like, well, they're attacking me, so it needs to be about me. It's not. You want it to be about you. You want it so much to be about you that it offends you, but it's not. It's their bullshit manifesting in a way that it comes out on you. And I promise you this, you're not the only person that they're doing this to. This is the control they have in their life. They can control your emotions by attacking you, and they feel empowered by this. The moment you take that away is the moment you grow as a human being. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. And I didn't really learn this until I met Robin Black. The moment I met that dude and I saw like the way that he handled people hating on him, which is only a few years ago, I started trying the same thing and I feel liberated by it. Like for instance, somebody made fun of my face, my scars the other day. And I just simply wrote them back in the very polite manner. And I said, I was born with a cleft palate. I can't help the way that I look. I'm really sorry that you felt the need to attack me in such a manner. I hope you have a great day. And he immediately, not only apologized to me, he wrote me a direct message after apologizing. And he said, hey, man, I don't know why I did that. I truly am sorry. I'll remove myself from your page. And I told him, hey, dude, we all have our moments. It's fine, because it really is fine. Don't leave the page. You're more than welcome to stay. And he was utterly grateful for it. And I think, the old saying online is don't feed the trolls. It's not about not feeding the trolls. It's about not feeding your own ego. Because the moment we take it personal, we're being selfish. We really are. We're not looking at it from, well, what's wrong with this person? Or is there something I can do to make you feel that you don't need to hate so much? Can I help you be a better person? And I know that might sound like very hippie-ish, but I have to say it helps. It makes me feel better to think that, it's not that they're bad people, they're having bad moments. And you can either feed that and make their bad moment like continue to feed fire and go, you know what? Fuck you, fuck your hate, fuck what you said to me. You can do that. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help you in any way. It's not going to help them in any way. Why not find out the root of the problem? Why is it that you hate me? What can I do to make you feel better about this situation? Is there something I can do to improve your way of life? Do you want to talk? Like I go live every Monday, so anybody can say whatever they want to me. And I've been doing that for 4 years now. And what's happened? One person every Monday I go live has ever come on there to actually attack me. And then by the time the conversation was over, we were homies, because it's not you. And you really got to get that mentality out of your head. To tell you the truth, most people just use you for whatever it is that their needs are at the moment. Your wife, your girlfriend, your friends, your homies. What are you giving back to the relationship? And if they give you negative and you give them negative, well, you're giving them what they want. If they give you negative and you give them nothing but positivity and love, what are they left with but positivity and love?
Well, that pretty much answered what I had to. But it was nice meeting you. Hopefully we can do this again.
Anytime you guys want me on, all you got to do is just ask. I have no problem coming back as long as it meets my scheduling. Like I told him before we started, I made a decision when I started doing this that I never thought I was that important. So like anybody who ever sends me a message, I answer all of them. It doesn't matter how many I get in a day. Eventually I will get to that message, and I will always be on anybody's show, whoever asks. It doesn't matter how many followers they have or how many followers I have. I will always give time to support people who support me, period. That will always be the case.
All right, nice one. Well, I'll let Sean finish off with you. It's like I said, really nice to meet you, Sean. Good to talk.
I'm Sean.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's good to have a chat. And I'll speak to you tomorrow, I guess.
Yes. Oh, you're talking to me? Sorry,
yes. You're Sean.
They're confused. Yeah, I thought you were saying bye to him. I'll speak to you.
I've said bye.
I'll speak to you in a minute.
All right. No, great episode, guys.
It was nice talking with you, man.
And you. I'll be in touch, okay?
Please. I'll put you on the phone then.
All right, nice one. Bye. Send me the video, Sean.
Yes, I will. Back on.
All right, bye.
Oh, he cracks me up. I have no idea what he could possibly be doing, unless he's strange because he'll probably be going. He'll listen back to this now, and he'll be like, "What are you slagging me up?" He'll probably be cooking dinner. Is what he's doing. He's probably cooking dinner. He always eats late. Chef
I really do. I really do appreciate you having me on. I understand, like, no matter, the more you do this, the more heat you're going to get and the more people are going to throw hate your way. You know, like the truth is we all have our own backgrounds, we all have our own bullshit, but how we handle that bullshit is what makes us who we are. So people are gonna say shit. Fuck them. Like, give them love. Give them as much love as you can, because they are the people who need it the most.
Yeah, exactly. It was just I think it was just because it was at the beginning. Like now, to be fair, I don't think I've had a single hateful message from anyone. Touch wood. But yeah, in the beginning, because I was brand new in it, I didn't know what to do. Didn't really know what I was doing. I was literally sat in here. Well, in fact, the first episode I did, I was sat in my work vehicle, and I thought I need to do something. So I started talking for, I think it was only about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. And then I eventually came into what I now call the Shedio, which is my shed studio. And it just sort of took off from there, you know, and then I eventually got Darren on board. He started coming on because I found it easier to communicate, obviously, talking to somebody else, because before I was literally just talking to myself and just airing out all these thoughts and feelings in my head. But then I had someone to bounce off, and then I thought, oh, shall we try and get some guests on? And then I got one of my close friends who I served with in my regiment. He came to the shed. We had a chat. Then I had one of my best mates from back home who I've known for 32 years. He came on. We had a good chat, went down memory lane. And then the big guests, inverted commas, started coming on. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And I've had nothing but positivity from all the people that have been supporting the podcast. And it started off as once, maybe twice a week, but this week I've got yourself today. I've got Bill Turner, who's a director. He does a show over here which is called SAS Who Dares Wins. It's basically where they get regular human people to try and take on special forces training.
That's awesome.
He's the director of that show. Then Wednesday I've got one of the contestants from that show coming on, which is Chris Barker. Just giving them shout outs while we're chatting. Thursday, I'm actually off, but if anyone wants to come on, they fucking can if they want to. Why not do a whole week? And then Friday, I wouldn't say a sponsor as such, but a supporter of the podcast, is we have a few veteran companies that sort of look after the podcast, and one of them is the Dead Mammoth Coffee Company. So the owner of that is going to be popping on for a chat, and I think just the name Dead Mammoth Coffee Company is just brilliant in itself.
Yeah, of course.
But to be fair, this is like one of the second longest shows we've done. This is like nearly what we're on, almost 2 hours. Mate.
Almost 2 hours. So
that's good going. That's good going. And I can't lie, mate. It's been a fucking brilliant insight to the job that you're doing. It's been a fantastic conversation with you and Darren. It's been nice. Like I said earlier, I've only had one or two that I won't name them on here that haven't met the not so much the standard, but didn't really understand what the podcast was about. And
well, I'm pretty good with the flow. You know, like I've been on a lot of these, and I try to just go with whatever is presented and try to just go with the feel. But I do appreciate you having me on. I really enjoy talking shop. I enjoy, you know, answering questions about what I do, and I enjoy finding out about other people and learning about what they do. And it's always eye opening. And like I said, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, and it's like we said off air, the fact that we can now do things like this. Like where did you say you were in Florida, right? Was that Florida? Yeah. So you're in Florida. I'm in Kent in England, and we're having a conversation in two separate time zones where it's 10 o'clock here and must be
5 o'clock here.
5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, but you're able to have a fucking full-on conversation, which not a lot of people actually do. They're so caught up with how many likes they're getting on Instagram, how many fucking texts they've had that day, where they're not even having conversations with people. And I find for myself personally, I spend most of my day literally on my own driving around a small town. I do security is my main job.
Yeah.
I drive around making sure everything's fucking secure, funny enough.
Uh,
And most of the day I'm on my own, unless I get a radio call to go and deal with something or go and speak to a tenant or a client or whatever.
Yeah.
Most of the day is literally I'm sat in a vehicle, mainly listening to my favorite podcasts, which are the likes of obviously Joe Rogan, The Fighter and the Kid. I really enjoy Chris D'Elia, you know, the big American names I tend to listen to.
Yeah.
And occasionally I self gotta be done. Oh, he froze on me.
Yeah, it kind of went out there for a second.
Oh, and we're back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good. It happens.
That's not good. But I think it's probably about time that we call it a wrap there, dude. Because obviously my wife will fucking kick my ass if I'm out here.
I understand. Not a problem. But like I said, I do appreciate you having me on the show. You know, if there's anybody out there that wants to learn more about what it is I do or they want to support the page, they can find me pretty much at any social media, which is McDojoLife. Find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that good stuff. I make original content on YouTube. I usually post every day on all my platforms. So you'll see me post at least once a day, every day, no matter what's going on in my life. And then right now we are doing crowdfunding for the documentary. So if anybody wants to support, they can go to McDojoLife.com and then they can go support. There are perks that they can get for that. It's not like they're getting nothing for their money. All kinds of stuff they can get just for supporting. And if they can't, afford to support, that's okay. They can also support by just sharing. And that means a lot.
And I think it's going to be a fucking brilliant documentary when it all gets set up and started. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of the page itself, especially the Instagram one. I now subscribe properly. Apart from before, I'd catch glimpses. You know, when you're scrolling through on your timeline on like YouTube and things, you're like, oh, what's that? Fucking dickhead thing, mind melt you. But yeah, I subscribe and I'll be sharing the shit out of McDojo. I think McDojoLife, should I say? I think it's fucking brilliant.
Well,
but you've been an absolute gent, and it's been an honour for you to be on my show. So thank you very much for taking the time at your busy schedule to talk to us Brits over here.
Not a problem. I'll always make time.
Thank you very much, Rob.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Cheers, mate.
See you later.